Welcome in, guys. Hope you are having a wonderful Sunday. I know I am personally. And as you can see, joined as always with me, Will Volk. He is rocking, some of you might not be surprised here, but he is rocking an LSU hat this morning. And that is because, Will,
Holding up my end, yeah.
that is because our LSU Fighting Tigers, in such impressive performance last night, take down the South Carolina Gamecocks, a team that Will still swears to this day is a great team. So we're going to count it as a quality win in LSU's book, but they get the win 20-10, Will. And Will, me and you kind of talked about this off air. Me and you, so a lot of you don't know the backstory. Me and Will went to high school together, but we used to do the broadcast, well, the announcing for baseball games at our high school, and our baseball team historically terrible. All right, and we were talking about our days calling JV baseball games, and that's what this felt like. It felt like two awful teams going at it, man, just throwing haymakers at each other, just swinging and missing constantly. It was not a game easy on the eyes to watch for sure, Will, but uh, obviously LSU gets the win, which is the most important thing here. But South Carolina now 3-3 on the season, 1-3 in the SEC. And we kind of talked about the whole last year. They were at the same point of the season this year, where you watched the Alabama game. This did not feel like the Alabama game at all. This felt like we have significantly regressed. It really felt like South Carolina, had multiple chances to get back into this game, and LSU did their best to make sure that they were competitive, and neither team really felt like they wanted to win at all.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, man, what a rough game to watch. You mentioned like feeling like a JV baseball game. It was like, oh, come on, this game is just taking forever. I want to go to bed because it was, I'd rather sleep than watch what I saw last night. South Carolina had like one great play on offense, and beyond that, it was just frustrating. It was false starts everywhere. Uh, yeah, nothing really that had me inspired. I think LSU sacked Lenore Sellers like 5 times. That LSU defense, I'll give them credit. They did some good things. The offense, maybe, not so sure about that, but they got 20 points. That was their ceiling, like I thought. They got 20 points. Should have had a lot more than that, but that was enough for them to win. South Carolina, though, they really should not have been in this game until, late in the fourth quarter like they were. They should have been out of it well before, but you know, had me
Yeah,
still watching for a long time because LSU just let them continue to stay in it.
yeah, it
But
really felt like this game should have been like 34-10, like final score. The game didn't feel. I guess it felt close because the score was like, hey, South Carolina's like one play away, but it just never felt. I don't. If I was watching it from a South Carolina perspective, it probably just never felt like, hey, like this is not happening. Like this is
no, I mean LSU had inside the 10 twice and they turned it
three
over
times, three
two
times,
times.
and you scored. They were on the 1 yard line three times in this football game and scored 3 points off of those times. So
Incredible.
pretty bad. Now I will say so. Now that we've got the negative part out of this, I do want to swing this a different direction because I've had time to simmer down. Will, because if we would have
Okay.
done this last night, it would have been bad. It would have just been me roasting this team. And there's still a lot of bad. Don't get me wrong. But I do want to lay out some positive. Thank you guys for watching today's video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel and the YouTube channel and following us on all of our socials.
Oh yeah, please do what he said. Thanks.
All right, the positives for LSU, they were able to run the ball very efficiently last night. 166 yards on the ground is super impressive based off of what you saw against Ole Miss, where they just weren't even committed to running. They showed a commitment to running the football, and it worked out because they were able to be more balanced offensively. You had 400 total yards of offense. Now, Garrett Nussmeier's stats don't look very good. 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, the 2 interceptions in South Carolina territory, probably the most glaring thing here. But I want to say is the offense for LSU, I felt like picked it up. Like I feel like the offense for LSU looked extremely better. Obviously, this is a results based game, and if you just look at the box score, you look at the score, you say, "Wow, LSU struggled offensively again," and it was just not finishing drives. You were in the red zone 5 times, and you get 10 points out of that. That can't happen. And the fact is they were able to drive down the field. You have the Garrett Nussmeier interception early in the game on about like the 25, 30-yard line, driving down the field in a crucial spot there. You have the fumble as you're going into the end zone on the 1-yard line. You miss an opportunity there. And then obviously the interception late in the game on the RPO where Nuss just made the wrong read, throws the ball right to the safety. That can't happen. But as I say, that can't happen. You have to look at it in a totality of the entirety of the game. And I felt like LSU actually made tremendous strides. I thought Garrett Nussmeier looked extremely better throwing the football. I thought he had more zip on the ball. They had a couple big plays where they missed on, where guys just dropped passes or things like that. But I thought the offense played extremely well. It's just they played extremely well inside of the 20s. And in this league, the margins are so close that when you don't or convert on opportunities inside the 20, when you get them and you have to kick field goals, or even worse, you end with no points like LSU did multiple times, that's how you lose football games. And that is why we just talked about why this game was so close, because it really felt like LSU dominated this football game, Will. Offensively, they were able to move the ball pretty consistently. Like we saw this run game non-existent against Ole Miss, and they were able to go for almost 166 yards. So, I mean, I really think there's a lot of positives to take away from this game, but I think the negatives kind of overshadowed it because of the final score and the fact you let a South Carolina team hang around when they had no business in that football game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of am talking junk saying LSU's ceiling is 20 points, but I mean, we all know LSU, they should have had a lot more than 20 points last night. The offense definitely took a step in the right direction, and it feels like this was their best offensive performance this season against a real team, against an actual Power Four conference team. Just impressive how they were able to move the ball down the field. Not impressive how they turned the ball over twice inside the 10-yard line and just not able to capitalize. You're going to have to capitalize in some of these upcoming games at Vanderbilt. That's not going to be easy. Texas A&M coming into your building and then going on the road to Alabama where Kalen DeBoer, it has this thing about ranked games. We saw it again. So, LSU's got to get it together, but they're taking steps in the right direction. The offense is improving, and if they can just finish it out, they might be dangerous after all.
Yeah, I mean, we look halfway through the season, and LSU is sitting here 5-1 with everything in front of them technically still to play for here. But it's just one of those things where you almost have to see it. The back of the end of the schedule obviously gets significantly harder with road games at Vanderbilt next week, at Alabama, at Oklahoma. So, but I mean, the season changes. But I mean, we could easily be looking at this team. I mean, in 2 weeks, right? If they go on the road and get a win against Vanderbilt, which is obviously a very good football team, but has their flaws as well. There's no perfect team here in the SEC, I think. And then you're going to get a top 5 at the least, Texas A&M team coming into a night game environment in Tiger Stadium where they haven't won since they've been in the league, Will. So, I mean, this is not a unrealistic thing to think that LSU could be sitting in 2 weeks and we could be talking about them right back into the playoff picture. But like you said, they have to get more consistent. They have to get better. I do think it was a positive step in the right direction. If you can clean up the turnovers, the mental mistakes like fumbling the football and stuff on the 1-yard line, and really just take advantage of the opportunities that teams give you, I think LSU will be a different story in the second half. But, we've seen it. You saw it in person last year. I mean, with South Carolina, teams are allowed to improve as the season goes along.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth here is that LSU is a lead on one side of the ball. They play championship style defense. If they could just get the offense to be competent and play complementary football, there's there's no team in the SEC that LSU could not beat if they were to figure things out. So I mean, it's a long season. They obviously have a long way to go, and they're not a perfect team by any means. But I mean, we talk about it every week. Well, the parity in this league is unreal. There's no team out here that has separated themselves, I feel like. So, every team, every single week has a chance to be beat. But stop talking about the LSU side of things and kind of talk about a little bit of the South Carolina thing. We talk about the winners first around here. So the South Carolina factor, I want to hear your side of things. Obviously, things have to change in Columbia on the offensive side of the football. It feels like you've completely wasted Lenore Sellers' season here because, yeah, I mean, I would say he's probably still going to get drafted and probably going to go play pro football after this. I don't see a world where he comes back to college. Maybe if he continues to struggle. But I mean, how are you feeling right now? 3-3, 1-3 in the SEC. Really, I think all hope of playoffs are pretty much gone here. They were already pretty dim as it was with the schedule, and then this is just the first leg of what is a gauntlet coming up for South Carolina. So it doesn't get any easier for the Gamecocks. How are you feeling at this moment in time as a South Carolina fan?
Oh boy. There's a lot of places I could go with this. I know in our preview video, I mentioned how I think this was the easiest game they had in like a month. If you looked at the rankings going into this week, that would be true
Next
because
weekend's looking.
yeah, it's looking better. It's looking better after what happened yesterday, but that was four teams in the top 10 with the most recent rankings. Oklahoma looking a little more winnable, and Ole Miss maybe a little more winnable after what they did, but you know, it's a tough gauntlet like you mentioned. South Carolina, they are where they were last year, 3-3, just like they were last year, but this feels like a much different 3-3, getting blown out in your own building against Vandy and Mizzou, LSU, just not looking too inspirational in those games. And you're not wrong about the offense. It's been frustrating to watch at times, seeing all the false starts, and I've been seeing it all season long by that offensive line, and they just keep letting them through, keep letting the defense through. And Lenore Sellers, it's like he's having to fight for his life out there. The defense is on him so quickly, so many times, and also, just not really seeing much out of offense. Maybe a credit to the LSU defense last night, but another night again where it felt like you didn't have much going for you. You had that one big touchdown run, and that was like almost half of your rushing yards, it seems like. Just frustrating for the Gamecocks. I will pump a little sunshine and rainbows, though. It does feel like they have one of these in them every year, at least, where they really show up and get all to click. And, you have to hope one of these next four games, they're going to have one of those games, and it's going to be a really fun time whenever that happens. Really, they just got to put it together. They've got the talent, I believe. I think they've got a good team. It's just, can you get it all to come together? And like we talked about with LSU, last night we saw South Carolina missing out on some opportunities as well and not finishing drives where you have it on the LSU side of the field. Saw a missed field goal, saw another drive stall out. So just got to put it all together, take advantage of these opportunities. But my mindset has totally changed from playoff to can we make a bowl game. The Coastal game would be win number 4. I think you just got to win one of these next 4. Find a way. One of these next 4. Beat Coastal. Then you'll have an opportunity playing Clemson to get that 6th win and go to a bowl. So recalibrate those expectations for sure.
Yeah, this South Carolina team, I mean, going into the season, I was not very high on them. I just felt like the players around, like the hype was all about Lenore Sellers. It was all about Dylan Stewart. And those are two phenomenal football players. Like, there is no doubt about that. But offensively, starting off there, you've seen it 2 years in a row now, Will, where you're coming out of a bye week, all right? And last year was the Ole Miss game where you come out and you just look so flat and you lay an egg like that. And then you come out this year and it's like the first drive. The first drive, we're lining up under center. They said it on the broadcast like they run like 3% of their plays from under center. They run the first play of scrimmage from under center. Lenore's can't with a new center at that, a
Mhm.
revolving door at center, so not a position of strength there. And Lenore's bobbles the snap, fumble, LSU turnover. Like,
Gifted them 3 points.
yeah, and it just set the tone for like what is the South Carolina offense, because it really just feels like it's just look, if they're going to have any success, it's just Lenore's playing backyard football. Like you saw as the game progressed last night, Lenore is losing his trust in the offensive line, because there was times where he actually had time, right? But he bails out like so quick. There's no trust with the receiving core for guys to make catches. There's no you had Simon last year, who was that safety blanket at tight end. It doesn't feel like he has one of those guys this year. And then there's no running game. Like, I mean, I actually thought South Carolina was able to run the ball half decently, but I mean, they just, for whatever reason, like you said, it was they would drive down the field, get to about the 30, then you get a holding call, then you get a false start, and then you're in first and 20 and second and 20, and then it's the intentional grounding. Lenore's had huge intentional grounding penalties last night. Those are things that my second year starting quarterback cannot do in those situations when we're in a position to get points. So he's losing. I think he's lost all his trust in his receivers. I think he's definitely lost his trust in his offensive line. Credit to the LSU defense for putting that pressure. They really made him feel that in the second half, especially. And it's just like one of those things where we talked about it in the preseason. The South Carolina team, they needed to get better offensively because you knew the defense was going to regress. You lose, 7 to 8 NFL players on defense. You knew there was going to be some regression there, but you had to find a way to meet in the middle. And the South Carolina offense, you can honestly say, has gotten worse. And that's probably the most frustrating thing for South Carolina fans. You've seen a regression from the offense. You've seen a regression from Lenore Sellers. I mean, I understand the elements that he's working with, but there is plays that are to be made that he is still not making. And yes, a lot of the blame goes on the offensive line, play calling, receivers, but at some point, just like the LSU situation, you have to look at the quarterback. He is the ultimate guy that makes these decisions and makes these plays. He's the guy who touches the ball every single play. So Lenoris needs to get better. The South Carolina offense schematically needs to get better. I expect tremendous coaching change on that side of the ball from both of these football teams at the end of the season, and we'll kind of see how it goes, because it does. Most frustrating thing for South Carolina fans has to be the fact that you feel like you have wasted a talent like Lenora Sellers this season.
Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. The expectations were so high after last year, and just seeing what's coming out of this, it does feel like a waste. But they're gonna put one of these games together. I do believe it, and that's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah, so I mean that's our endpoint for our South Carolina LSU takes. That was a pretty somber 15 to 20 minutes right there. But let's move on to some teams who had a very positive Saturday, Will, because on the scale of things, a lot of good things happened yesterday in college football. It was a busy day. It was hard keeping the eyes tuned in on everything. That seven
Yeah,
o'clock,
there's
we're
way
not even
too
going to
much
talk about
going
what
on.
happened with the Cubs yesterday. Very disappointing day there as well. But I want to start with the Indiana Hoosiers, who I think deserve the spotlight of Saturday, because my goodness, Will, this Indiana football team is for real. I texted you during the game
Mhm.
and I was like, almost win or lose, it was like, this is not last year's Indiana team at all. Like, this feels nothing like Kirk Signetti, what he has done to this program. Like, this dude is going to be the hottest commodity come coaching time or search time, because there is going to be a couple big time programs that are going to be looking for head coaches. And if your first phone call is not trying to get this dude out of Indiana, I don't know what you're doing as an AD, because this dude wins football games. He said in his opening press conference at Indiana, he said, all you got to do is Google me. All I do is win. And boy, has he ever. I mean, the complete 180 he has done with this Indiana program. And now you have that signature program win going on the road, toughest environment really in college football right now, and play the Oregon Ducks, one of the most talented teams in the country. an absolute psychopath in Dan Lanning, a Heisman Trophy favorite quarterback going into the game, and Dante Moore. And Will, I'm telling you, outside of the pick six that they gave him at the end of the game, this game wasn't that close towards the second half of this football game. I mean, Indiana really gifted Oregon that pick six, but I mean, if you take that out of here, I mean, this is a 30-13 win. I mean, they kind of controlled the second half. I mean, what was this game? 10-10 at half or 13-10?
Uh-huh.
13-10 at halftime.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, Indiana dominated, and it was the most impressive thing I saw of the entire weekend. Hats off to that Indiana football program. They deserve all of their flowers. They should be easily a top five team going into whatever rankings that are out there that you go by, because that Indiana football team is for real, and they are going to be a major player in the Big Ten.
Yeah, I mean, only gave up one offensive touchdown the entire game. Right, I think I'm seeing that right. Yeah, because they had
Yep.
two field goals and then the pick six. So, really, really impressive by Indiana, and it definitely felt like they were the better team in this game. So just really all the props to Kurt Signetti and what he's doing there. I mean, that Illinois win put them on the radar in a lot of people's minds. Like, this is a legit team. This is a different story than last year. And then going on the road to Oregon, and I don't even think you can say on the road. It's more like in the air because it's so far away. Going all the way out there, a hostile environment, college game day, big time atmosphere, and then to do what they did against them, just really impressive. All the props, and I mean, I'm saying I think Indiana, they're already in the playoff. It feels like I know they got to play six more games, but they don't have any other teams on that schedule that are currently ranked. Just keep that in mind. And with the resume, I mean, that you said last year, they can't win the big one. They've won two top 10 games already this year, especially with that statement win against Oregon. They feel pretty safe for the playoff. And then you look at, can they make the Big Ten championship game? Them and Ohio State, they're the only ones standing unbeaten in Big Ten play right now. So things are very much trending up for the Hoosiers, and you're wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Kurt Signetti is going to be a popular. Like, that phone is going to be blowing up as all these openings develop. I don't know if he'd leave. I mean, you got things working well in Indiana, but I guess everyone has a price, right? So we'll see. But Indiana, they got to be feeling really good. Maybe a champion this season.
Honestly, the biggest thing I took away from the game, like when I texted you that, it had no bearing on the results. Like, this was early in the second half that I texted you, because I'm watching the game, and I'm watching Indiana in the physicality that they were bringing to Oregon. Like, Oregon wants to go in there and they want to pound, like they want to dominate the line of scrimmages. They want to make huge hits, and I was watching Indiana dudes just laying wood. Like, I mean, they were smoking dudes from Oregon. And then offensively, I mean, I'm watching running backs trucking dudes. And it was just like, what the heck? Like, don't get me wrong. I haven't watched very much Indiana football this year. I mean, I watched a little bit of the Illinois game, but I wasn't, completely locked in. Well, I made it a point that I wanted to watch these two teams play from start to finish. And my goodness, man! Like I said, you got to give Indiana their flowers, because that is a dominant football team. Because now they have moved into that tier. Because now you are not talking about Indiana as a playoff contender, right? You are talking about them as a national championship contender. Like, we have to
Mm-hmm.
have a real conversation that this Indiana football team is capable of winning a national championship, and that is something that is unheard of in Indiana football history. But Kirk and Eddie and what they're doing, yeah, they have a pasture that's very green for the rest of the season, but they're going to go into Indianapolis. They're going to play for the Big Ten championship, and it's probably going to be Ohio State or a rematch with Oregon at this point. But my goodness, Will, this team has the capabilities of being special. Like, there is not one phase of the game where I feel like Indiana lacks right now. And you couldn't say that last year. They had a lot of flaws last year. They just had the benefit of a good schedule. But if you were an Indiana hater, after Saturday, You're back in the closet. You ain't saying nothing. Yeah, you got nothing to say about this football program anymore because this Indiana football team is so for real, and I was so impressed. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about them first because man, they set the tone. I feel like there's three teams in college football right now that have really separated themselves from that group: Miami, Ohio State, and Indiana. And it is those three teams right now could argue that either one of those three teams could be the number one team in the country right now. I mean, just super impressive, and that's kind of going to lead into our next game. We're going to talk about a team in that second tier, but a team that was able to squeak out a road victory in the SEC yesterday, and that is Alabama, Will. And it's a bad time to be playing Alabama. It's a bad time to always play Kalen DeBoer in the black hoodie on the or
Hmm.
in a ranked football game, as they get a 27-24 victory. This game wasn't as close as really the score said. Missouri got that late touchdown there to kind of make it look like it was close, but Alabama kind of controlled and dominated the second half of that football game. And man, I'm telling you, Will, this Ty Simpson kid got to be the best quarterback in the SEC right now. Like, I mean, and that is not something that is being talked about. I mean, it's got to be him or Marcel Reed right now in the SEC. But what he's been doing at Alabama over the last 4 5 weeks, I mean, is unreal. I mean, he's been great distributing the ball. And they finally, it looks like, found a running game here. But I mean, this Alabama team is just finding ways to win games. Like, this was the ultimate trap game for them. It felt like a terrible spot for them after facing back to back emotional games like Georgia and Vanderbilt. And Missouri, opens up the scoring and they go right down the field and score. And you're like, okay, here we go. But man, they were able to weather the storm. And Alabama looks like an elite football team, just like we all kind of thought they would be in the preseason. That Florida State game really kind of skewed their narrative, but man, it probably is going to be one of those things where we look back and say that Florida State game is the best thing that happened to this football team.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sitting here after seeing what Florida State's done in the last three games, wondering how did Alabama manage to lose to that team? But it was week one. And, you don't get a preseason in college football. You just get out there and go. So that was yeah, a lot that had to be cleaned up for Alabama, but they cleaned it up, and man, they are firing on all cylinders now. And good news for Crimson Tide fans, they get another ranked opponent this week. It seems like that's what you need because, man, three ranked wins in a row, that's not something you see happen all that often. Now they're going to have a chance against Tennessee to get a fourth one, and I'm looking at their schedule. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. They're going to South Carolina. It's not going to be a ranked South Carolina team. And we know Kalen DeBoer, if he loses to unranked teams. So as a Gamecock, I got hope. But, if Alabama brings their best, that game will probably be ugly because Alabama is a good looking team again.
Yeah, it's funny. It's they were talking about Kalen DeBoer is breaking all of the narratives, right? He had to get over the road game thing. They were committing penalties at a very alarming rate. Will they've cut out the penalties? They've played extremely better on the road now. And then you had the construction site factor, the active construction zone last year at Vanderbilt
Mm-hmm.
got them. We had the active construction site yesterday in Missouri, and they were able to overcome that. But no, I mean, all jokes aside, like I hate Alabama more than anybody here, but I have to give my respect where respect is due here. I mean, this team looks like the best team in the SEC right now. I mean, between them and the way A&M's playing, I mean, it's hard for me to look at Alabama right now and not see a path for them in Atlanta. Like you said, they've really jumped the hurdles that they've needed to over the last couple of weeks. They've rectified their entire season. Obviously, it doesn't get easier because I mean you play in the SEC. This is a week in and week out thing. If you don't play your best, you're gonna lose. It's a But man, this Alabama team feels like that Florida State game, like you said, how in the world did they lose that football game? But man, I think Kalen DeBoer wouldn't trade that loss right now for anything if he knew his team was going to play like this the rest of the season. And like you said, man, we saw it with Nick Saban multiple times. Like these teams respond after a loss. You get into that wounded animal mode. And honestly, it took Alabama in that self reflection, realizing, like, hey, we have to be better and we have to play to that standard. And they have. And if they continue to do this the rest of the season, they're going to be right there in that elite tier with the top 5, 6 teams in the country. And they're going to be in Atlanta facing some other SEC team because this is my preseason SEC champion. I thought this team was going to be extremely good. And that was with me thinking that Ty Simpson wasn't going to be that good. And he is literally carrying this offense. We talked about South Carolina, LSU earlier in this show and their lack of the run game. Well, Alabama's had a lack of a run game all season. And Ty Simpson, every time they've needed him to make big plays, I remember a play in yesterday's game on 4th and 8 yesterday. I'm thinking, why in the world are they even going for this right now? I mean, you're giving Missouri a good field position here. They're going for it on 4th and 8, and all he does is make the best throw of the entire day. And the box score is not going to jump out to you. Well, he threw for 200 yards yesterday, but he had 3 touchdowns. He was super efficient, and he gets the playmakers the ball. And this Alabama team, it just, I mean, I can't talk glowingly enough, man. They've been awesome the last 3 weeks, and I don't see how any team right now that they have left on their schedule is going to be able to slow them down because man, it is just one of those things where they're a well-oiled machine right now, and it's going to take me. Honestly, it was crazy because it went from me having to see them overcome these demons after the Florida State game, like I have to see them, and now I've seen it, and it's going to be one of those things where now I got to see them be bad again because at this point in time, I mean, I view them as the top team in the SEC. I'm sure they're right up there with you too, but yeah, man,
Yeah.
this Alabama team wins, and like I said, the score really didn't factor in the fact that they kind of handled this game in the fourth quarter, that late touchdown. But yep, winning streaks up to 5, and we'll see where it goes from here.
Impressive stuff, but I will say about that schedule, I think it's a gauntlet, and you don't have another easy game in the SEC. You got ranked opponents coming into your building in Tennessee, LSU, and Oklahoma, and then even your road games against some of the bottom tier teams in the SEC. But those are still tough places to play. South Carolina and at Auburn at the end of the year. We see like every odd numbered year, weird stuff happens in the Iron Bowl. So, it's still a gauntlet for Alabama, but if they get through that unscathed, all the respect in the world for them, and they would definitely prove they're one of the best in the country.
Moving on to another team that feels like they were trending in the complete wrong direction here, but they kind of rectified some things too on Saturday, and that is the Texas Longhorns.
Yep, they're
They're
back
not
in
dead
it.
yet. They're not dead yet. Well, they didn't hear no bell because man, they took it to Oklahoma yesterday. It wasn't even. I mean, this game was competitive there for a while, a defensive juggernaut, but I mean, Texas was able
Dominated
to
the
pull.
second half.
Yeah, Texas was able to pull away, and boy, I think Oklahoma really screwed themselves here. Will I felt all week that John Mateer shouldn't play in this football game, and clearly he should not have because first of all, he just cost his chance to win the Heisman. Obviously, he probably doesn't really care about individual awards. He probably cares about the team, but Heisman chance is gone now. I mean, he was awful yesterday, and you can't tell me that. I mean, maybe 60%. When you injure your throwing hand, Will, and you have to have surgery on your throwing hand, it's not a good thing. Like you are not going to be able to grip the football the same way. You're not going to be able to throw the football the same way. But honestly, it was more concerning because I felt like he threw the ball actually pretty well. He just threw it to the other team, so it was more of his decision making yesterday. That was the biggest problem, but Oklahoma just couldn't run the ball, man. They made it one dimensional. John Mateer had to drop back and throw the ball 38 times yesterday, and Texas's defense just ate them up all game long. And I was super impressed with Arch Manning. Like I said, this is another situation. The numbers aren't going to jump off the page, but you know what? This is what Texas needs Arch Manning to be. Like they just need him to be a competent play to that defensive strength. All right, he was super efficient, 21 for 27 with a touchdown, didn't turn the football over, which is a big key in this game. And they were able to run the ball a little bit, almost got 100 yards there, 94 yards from Wisner yesterday for the Texas run game. So that was kind of the thing. I felt Texas was in desperation mode. I felt like Texas was going to win this football game. I felt like John Mateer playing was going to hurt Oklahoma more than it was going to help. And I mean, it kind of played out almost exactly. I thought it was going to be a little bit more of a defensive game, but credit to Texas. They needed that game more than they needed to breathe, man, because technically all of their dreams and hopes are still alive here. But it's like if you're Oklahoma now you have to bounce back because you look like that. It's kind of exposed you here. You don't have the easiest schedule coming up. You got to go on the road next week against South Carolina. So that's not going to be an easy dynamic there. That's going to be what their first true, real road game, I believe, right? Because they played
Yeah,
Auburn and
they've been
in
at
Oklahoma.
Temple, but
Yeah, well,
that's
that
not really.
that that does not count. Although shout out to Temple. Temple yesterday covering 9.5 for me against Navy. Ended up losing on 2 point conversion. Sorry about that, but thank you for covering 9.5. We won money on that. That's the only time we're going to talk about Temple the rest of the year. So clip that if you're a Temple fan. But no, this Oklahoma team really got exposed yesterday, I think, Will, and it's that fork in the road, right? What are you going to be the rest of the year? I felt like Texas was facing that fork in the road against Oklahoma. It's like, hey, this season has a chance to still be good, or we could take this left turn and it could be disastrous, right? And they were able to answer that bell and get a huge win. But now, what happens to Oklahoma? They've been punched in the mouth. The quarterback, obviously not 100% here. They really haven't developed a running game. So, what does this offense look like next week? Do they answer the bell? I'm kind of concerned for Oklahoma right now. The panic button has been pressed, and it is going off at an alarming rate right now for Oklahoma fans, I think.
Yeah, you mentioned the schedule. Just look at this schedule at South Carolina, which I don't think will be like an easy walk in the park win. But that's probably your best looking game the rest of the year because you got Ole Miss at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, and then LSU to end the year. That's a much tougher second half of the season than the first half when you had all those cupcake teams and Auburn, one of the bottom tier teams in the SEC. So, yeah, where does Oklahoma go from here is the question. John Mateer, I mean, I hope he can get healed up, but definitely didn't seem like himself yesterday. Um, but yeah, Oklahoma's probably got some concerns. They did run into Texas, who was feeling very inspired, basically playing for their season because after that Florida game, they knew you really can't take another loss or it's all over. But now with a win like this, it's all still in front of you. Remember, one of those losses was to Ohio State, so you only have one loss in SEC play. You still get Georgia ahead of you, so you still have an opportunity to kind of play your way maybe to Atlanta and definitely play your way into the playoff if you can finish strong. So, I mean, Texas fans got to be feeling good after yesterday. Arch Manning, like you said, he did what he needed to do. And really, the defense kind of shined through. Just let Texas's defense do their thing. And for Arch
A
Manning
big
and the
zero.
offense, don't
A big
screw up.
zero in the turnover. That is the key here.
Yeah,
You know,
don't
you don't
screw
turn the
up. That's
football
it.
over. Just don't. Yeah, they give you the keys to the Lamborghini to just don't crash it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what he did. So credit to him. Everybody kind of put all this pressure on him, and rightfully so, just because of his last name. But the truth is we've seen him play, and he hadn't played that well when he played. The prior season, and it was a lot on him. I will give him credit. He has to deal with probably more pressure than any quarterback in college football, just because of his name and where he plays at. So I was super happy to see him play well. I was super happy to see Texas obviously get that win. And like I said, this is a fork in the road for Oklahoma. Like you said, the gauntlet that they have coming up is not ideal, and we could be easily talking about this team in 3 weeks, and saying like what happened to Oklahoma, and Is it because of John Mateer's injury? Or is it because, maybe the teams that they played earlier in the season just weren't that great? Auburn's not looking great. Michigan's not looking great here after this weekend. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot you're going to find out about Oklahoma later on in the season. You're going to really find out how good they are. But a big spot for Texas, and I was glad to see them come through. But I still don't feel very high about either one of these teams. I didn't walk out of this game thinking like, yeah, these teams kind of asserted themselves as being national contenders. I don't feel that way at all. But a competitive uh, uh, SEC team is always a dangerous team. Well, they got the talent. Both of them got the talent. So it'll be interesting to see how this the rest of the season plays out. And I want to move on to probably. I mean, this was probably the most controversial game. I didn't get to watch a lot of this game because obviously our game was coming on at the same
We were
time. But
locked in.
but my goodness, Will, the storyline from this Auburn and Georgia game is got to be just like, what does Auburn got to do, man? Like, as an Auburn fan, if you're watching this, how in the world do you feel? Because I'm at this point where it's like Auburn has
Rough.
lost another big game, all right, and they lose a close game. Like, if you're Auburn, you're almost at this point, just please like get blown out. Like, stop teasing us. You got the turkey dinner right in front of us, and we're just not
Mhm.
allowed to eat it. Will, because my goodness, it feels like every single week they play a gauntlet of a schedule. So they're playing great teams every single week. It feels like, and every single weekend there is like one play that's so controversial. Whether it's the referees, whether it's Hugh Freeze play calling, time management, whatever it is, man, Auburn just finds a way to lose. I mean, the play of the day yesterday was the play on the 1 yard line. They do the tush push, and
Mhm.
everybody says, "Hey, he scored," and maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Either way, hold on to the football, score the touchdown, and we're not even talking about this. You go up 17-0 before halftime, and like I said, that game completely flipped on its head. I don't think Auburn didn't score the rest of the
Yeah,
game
that
after
was it.
after that
Momentum
moment.
totally
It was
shifted.
20-0 run from Georgia, and I mean, you got to credit Georgia because they were down and they were in a hostile environment. We see crazy things happen at Jordan Hare all the time. That's not an easy place to play in. And Auburn was really teeing off on Gunnar Stockton in the first half. I was super impressed at how he responded because Georgia had zero run game. Like, I'm talking about zero. Will, do you realize Gunnar Stockton was your leading rusher last night with 26 yards? You
Wow.
have never heard this about a Georgia football team not being able to run the ball with the talented running backs that have come out of Georgia. But I mean, last night, 26 yards on the ground. I mean, that is embarrassing to have Gunnar Stockton be your leading rusher. But you know what, Will? When you're playing in the SEC, you play tough road games. You don't play your best. You just got to find a way to win. And you got to credit Kirby. He gets the benefit of the doubt because he's probably the best coach in college football. But I mean, Georgia's looking like they're not going to be this juggernaut team again, and it just feels like it's just kind of like we were talking about with LSU. It feels like it's not going to be if they lose, it's when they lose type thing. I mean, they do have the benefit of playing Ole Miss and Texas later on in the season at home, and that's a huge advantage for them. But it just feels like I mean, the SEC in general just feels like there is not one team that is really definitively better than the other, and you can lose every single week. But I mean, the story of this football game is Auburn, and they're going to have to get rid of Hugh Freeze. It's a shame. He just can't do it. He can't do it at this level, man. You can't constantly be in positions to win football games like this and just continue to lose. Um, it's rough, man. 0-3 in the SEC now, 3-3 overall. It's bad times in Auburn, and they're going to be looking for another football coach at the end of this football season. I think I'm pretty confident in saying that at this point now.
It is rough times for Auburn. Not wrong about that. That play, it's wild. That the review was like 5 minutes, something crazy, and wonder why. I mean that was very borderline in my opinion. Even though I'm wearing a Georgia shirt, I think that was an Auburn touchdown. I saw it in saw it like as it was happening, and seeing that pylon cam, it looked like a touchdown. But even still, for Auburn to basically do nothing after that complete momentum swing play. I mean, you're up multiple scores on Georgia at home. How do you not close this out? Feels like a lack of discipline, like you mentioned, or like, did you mention lack of discipline? I don't know.
Well, it's
That's what
just the
feels
whole
like to
big
me.
game and handling these situations. I mean, it all comes down to coaching. Like, you cannot let a play single handedly beat you. Like, if
Yep.
your team is that mentally not locked in to where one play, and it's not like, to be honest, Will, if the ruling was correct, they kind of screwed Georgia because Georgia ran it back for a touchdown. Like, it should have been a Georgia touchdown if he fumbled,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, the kid
Yeah, and
picked
they
it up and
called it
ran it
dead.
into the end zone,
He
but they
wasn't
called it
down.
dead. So I mean, you're getting the ball at the half-yard line. All right. All you got to do is get a stop there and continue to play the football game you've been playing. But it's like, how in the world is this just every weekend we are talking about the same things over and over again? Like, people joke about, like, Penn State and James Franklin not being able to win big, Brian Kelly not being able to win big games. But it's like, Hugh Freeze is in a position to win a big game every freaking weekend. And every freaking weekend, it is the same thing. It's a close loss. It is, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to even say. It's like the most, I don't know. It's just, it's rough. It's rough for Auburn. I feel bad for them. Hopefully they get Kirk Cinetti in there and he changes that program around. Not too much because we do have them on the schedule, but, you know, gosh, man, it just feels like Auburn deserves so much better than this.
I do want to say a few things about Georgia, but you mentioned Kurt Signetti, and I wanted to ask you: do you think like he has a price, and he would leave his current situation at the right SEC
Absolutely.
school?
There's
He
no
would.
shot. There's no shot in the world that a guy. I don't care what Indiana pays him. The and let he has that competitive nature in him, Will, where I don't think he cares about like the competition. So I don't think he'd be scared to come to the SEC at all. I don't think he'd be scared to go take the Penn State job, honestly. And his asking price is going to be hellacious. Like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
talking about, like, he could easily be the highest paid football coach in the country because of his asking price. And I'm looking at Florida, all right, and I'm looking at Auburn, and I'm looking at Penn State right now because those three schools got a lot of money invested in football, all right, and unfortunately they're gonna have to pay a lot of money in buyouts. But that being said, I think Kirk Cinetti would leave Indiana. I don't I don't see a world where Indiana can be the constant player. Like, we're talking about Kirk Signetti, and if he goes and takes one of these jobs, could be like dynasty. Like, he is that
Yeah.
good. Like, he is legit won and dominated every single place he's been. And if you can do what the hell he's doing at Indiana, let him get some athletes. Let him go in the state of Florida and go get some South Florida kids on the roster. And you tell me he ain't going in there and winning football games for the University of Florida or stealing kids from Alabama. And I mean, could you imagine the rivalry if Kirk Cinetti went to Auburn? Will, could you
Yeah.
imagine the
Bring
Iron
them
Bowl with
back up.
Kalen
Just
DeBoer
imagine.
and Kirk Cinetti? Holy cow! I mean, we're talking about everybody's talking about Auburn's schedule, but man, you hire a guy like Kirk Cinetti, all right, and now Georgia and Alabama are like, damn, we're gonna have to play them every single year now, and it's. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if any of those teams are even thinking about it. I really don't know if he would leave. I really don't. But I think there is no way in the world that he is not the first freaking phone call. There's no way in the world. And there's no way you don't just hand him a blank check and say, how much do you need? And say, come be our coach. Because if you hire him as your football coach, you have a real chance of being in the national championship picture every single year. And he's already proven that it ain't gonna be long. All right. I mean, go from what, 2-10 to playoff team in year one, and then now you're talking about a team that can really compete for a national championship in year two. You give them SEC quality athletes, Will, that's a
Yep.
recipe for success.
And Auburn might be trying to cook that recipe. We'll see. But I did want to mention Georgia. It's I saw a stat which is kind of crazy. Like 9 of their last 10 games against a power team, they've been down at halftime. Like what is going on with Georgia? But to their credit, they found a way to win the majority of those games. I think 6 of those games they found a way to win. So Georgia, they get down, but they get back up and they finish these games. And you think about maybe the difference between Georgia and Auburn. Georgia, they're in a big game last year on the road at Texas. They get that call that doesn't go their way. Remember that pass interference that they changed, and all the Texas people were throwing bottles. Rough call for Georgia. Feels like one of those momentum shifting plays, and Georgia just got back up and they finished out that game. So difference between Georgia and Auburn when you have some calls not going your way.
Well, it's like, I mean, it's the Kirby Smart factor. Like, I mean, he is
Yeah.
the best coach in college football, and it's like the difference between winning and losing these one possession games comes down to usually coaching. When the teams
Hmm.
are equal, well, there's another factor in this thing, and it's all about coaching. And Kirby Smart has shown a way to make sure that his team can come through in adverse times. Because, like you said, they experienced that all of last year. Pretty much. I mean, they were playing with danger all of last year, and then it seems like they're doing the same thing this year. Um, but yeah, I mean, man, if you're a Georgia fan, you're probably not feeling great. I mean, you're like you said, it doesn't feel like this team's good enough to compete for a national championship. They kind of just feel like one of those next tier. Like, I mean, it's like you have those three teams that we talked about earlier that feel like the national championship contenders right now. But then there's other teams where it's like, hey, if they figure it out, they can be in that conversation. But I don't think Georgia's figured it out. I don't know. I don't know if Georgia knows who they are, and they dang sure ain't going to be able to compete with the elite tier teams running for 26 yards with your quarterback. So that is something that they have to fix, like immediately. So I'm interested to see what it looks like because, like you said, they have the games at home, but definitely not easy test there with Texas's defense and then Ole Miss and that offense and the way they're playing. So, I mean, it's a gauntlet. The SEC is a gauntlet. We could talk about literally any team the same way. It feels like we're just repeating ourselves over and over again, but. I do want to kind of move on into a couple of the other games, maybe not spend as much time here. We're going to wrap things up, but Ohio State, Illinois kind of played out pretty much to a
Just
T
like
how
we
I felt it
thought.
was going to play out. Illinois, honestly, kind of just they were outmatched. Man, they had no chance. 21 points off of turnovers. That Ohio's defense brought it again. Um, you know, Thankfully Illinois was able to get a couple touchdowns. I mean, that's pretty impressive there. But yeah, as an overall thing, it like we talked about, it feels like Ohio State has separated themselves from the pack here. They win and cover, but this game was 20-0. Will, um, and then I think Ohio State kind of took themselves and took their foot off the gas a little bit there, and they got a little close there at the end, but there was no point in this game where I was like, oh, Illinois got a chance. It was like, no, Ohio State pretty much came out of the gate and proved kind of the theory that we talked about all week, which was they were going to go in there and dominate. Probably wasn't going to look pretty, but how in the world was Illinois going to be able to score? And they weren't. They weren't able to score at all. So dominant win from Ohio State. Any thoughts on Ohio State or Illinois at this point?
Yeah, played out just like I thought it would, and Illinois now 5-2, and I just look at the rest of their schedule. They have no teams that are currently ranked on the rest of the schedule. Washington might get their way back into the rankings, so that could be tough going on the road there. But if Illinois wins out and they end up 10-2, I I really hope they don't put them in the playoff because they've had two big shots against two quality teams and they have not looked good at all in both of those games. So we'll see. But yeah, for Ohio State, you gotta be feeling good, just taking another step.
Yeah, and another team I think that has taken another step, and while I know it's just Florida, man, is Texas A&M team just really
Yep.
just flying under the radar. Will like nobody is talking about them, but all they do is just keep winning, and they're not just winning; they're winning in pretty dominant fashion. I mean, we saw this Florida team beat Texas last week and look dominating doing it, and it looked like here this was going to be a close game. It was 14-14 at the end of the first quarter, but A&M locked it in 3 points the rest of the rest of the way for Florida. A&M goes on to really dominate the second half of this football game, and it's just another staple for Mike Elko and company. This team's already the top 5 team, undefeated here. They got a couple big tests coming up, but man, it feels like A&M is for real. And I know we joke and laugh and make fun of them because they're Texas A&4, but this team feels a little different. They've got a lot of things they got to clean up too, but you know what? The way they've been dominating teams lately, it's hard not to think of A&M as a bona fide playoff team at this point.
Another impressive win for the Aggies, and now 6-0. That's one of their best starts in a long time, I'd say. But it's been an interesting schedule. You get 3 conference games to start out, and now you got to go on the road 3 times, 3 games in a row. And I have to feel like they're probably going to slip up in one of these at Arkansas, at LSU, at Missouri. It ain't easy going on the road. So, but even if they slip up in one of those, A&M's still looking like they're trending towards the playoff.
Yeah, this A&M team is definitely for real. They play Arkansas next week. Yeah, should win that game, but I mean, like you said, they have a big test in going on the road to LSU, and we're gonna really find out. You go on the road and beat that LSU team, a place you haven't won since you've joined the
Boy,
conference.
you
That
do
is
that.
a major statement. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a
if you
major
do
statement
that, you are
from
in
the
that
Aggies.
company of Indiana, Ohio State, Miami that we're talking about. Like, you would join that if you get that kind of win.
Yeah, for sure. And another team that I think is honestly making a play here, team flying under the radar. Everybody kind of looked down upon them because they lost to Illinois, but USC gets a big win yesterday against a top
Mm-hmm.
15 Michigan team, and another one where they were pretty dominant in this football game. You know, Sharon Moore kind of joked in the media this week. I don't know if you saw the clip of him saying that the Coliseum was only getting sold out because Michigan was coming to town, and a lot of that probably has a little bit of truth to it. But you know, Lincoln Riley was on record and saying he didn't really care about that comment, and they were going to find out Saturday, and they answered the bell,
You
man,
found
because
out.
USC looked really good. I was able to watch a little bit of this game, 31-13 win for USC there, and they control all their destiny. I mean, they really do, and they lose that game to Illinois, but they have a huge test next weekend, going on the road to face Notre Dame. You go on the road and beat Notre Dame, man, you are right back in the playoff picture. I mean, you have another tough test later on in the year going on the road to Oregon. But if you can split the Oregon and or go, let's say 2-3, because you have 3 tough road games. You got to go to Nebraska, you have to go to Notre Dame, and then you got to go to Oregon. If you
Mm-hmm.
can go 2-3, or you can go 2 for 3 there, all right, and win 2 of those 3 games, you're a playoff team. I mean, you're going 10-2. You have the quality wins there. I mean, who knows? This USC team looks really good, man. I really like what they've done defensively. I really love the quarterback play from Jaden Mayava. It feels like USC is a contender now, and you haven't really been able to say that over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and the way the schedule lines up, they do avoid the big dogs in Indiana and Ohio State. Yeah, massive, massive test this week, though, against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame is going to be fighting for their lives because they already have 2 losses. This is their probably final opportunity to get a statement win against USC. So that's going to be a very tough test. But if they get through that, ooh, look out. Looking forward to certainly previewing that in our next episode. That's going to be a big one.
I mean, 490 yards for USC against this Michigan defense. Like, I mean, that is what Michigan is bred and buttered for, is playing some defense, and they hung 500 yards of offense on them. I mean, that is not anything to slouch at. So, I mean, this the ceiling is the roof, as they like to say in certain parts of the country for USC Trojans. So that's about all we got for today. Is there anybody you want to mention from your Week 7 standouts?
La 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 la
Anybody you
la.
want to
Penn
throw in here at
State's
the
another
end?
story, but yeah, what's going on there, right? Um,
Shout out South Florida. Shout out South Florida
yep,
dominating
big win.
North Texas in the G5 game of the week there. Shout out to Arkansas with the late touchdown to cover there as well. Who else? BYU remains undefeated.
Yep,
A big
overtime after I
double
had gone to
overtime
sleep.
win. Yeah,
Yep.
double
How
overtime
about
win, and
Utah?
then
Utah with a giant win
dominating
over Arizona
performance.
State, and that's the
And then
Holy War next
obviously
week.
Florida State. Yeah, that's gonna be a big game too, man. We're gonna have a lot to preview this week. It's a loaded slate again, man. We're getting in that time of the season where every week is gonna be crazy. And then obviously the two uh, dumpster fires in Florida State and Penn State right now on 3-game losing streaks, both of them. My goodness, it's tough times for those fan bases. So we just want to send our condolences out there for those teams.
How
But
about
yeah,
those
man, that's gonna
preseason polls?
Yeah, man, we love good preseason polls, especially when they flop like that, man. It's bad.
Yeah,
Although, credit, preseason, Florida State was not ranked.
yeah,
The only reason they were ranked, they beat Alabama. So technically, they weren't a preseason ranked team, but Penn State, terrible team. It's feel bad for Drew Allard. Obviously, he's out for the season now, so
yeah.
things
Hate to see
probably not
that.
getting any better for Penn State in that regards. But man, it is a tough times to be a South Carolina fan, Penn State fan, or a FSU fan. A week of disappointment. But you know what? The best thing about college football, Will, there's always next week. You get another game, you get 12 of them. You know, everything's still in front of us. We just went out. That's the rules. We're always pumping sunshine and rainbows here.
Yep, I'm still
All right,
feeling
guys, that's
good.
going to wrap it up for you. Yeah, man, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Follow us on all our socials. Make sure you're keeping an eye out for the Set It Off Top 25 rankings coming out on Mondays every single week. You guys seem to love that. Unfortunately, you guys don't talk very nicely to me about rankings. All right, but if you do, make sure you check us out on Facebook, Twitter, all kinds of stuff. We're on the TikTok, as the kids call it these days. But yeah, the most important thing, Will, is what? We got to make sure we're subscribed to the channel. All right, it's completely free. It signs you up for literally nothing. All it does is help us out. And we're trying to get to 1,000 by the time football season ends. We're right there, guys. So if you guys can make that happen, Will's birthday is this week. Wish him a happy birthday in the comment section. That's your job. If you watch this video and you are here at the hour mark, first of all, thank you. All right, because you're
Major
dedicated and you're
dedication.
probably a family member. All right, but if you are a casual fan and you're just watching us, wish Will a happy birthday. Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next time.